Part 3, Cakes and Fillings, of A Little Cookbook for a Little Girl. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. A Little Cookbook for a Little Girl by Caroline French Benton. Part 3, Cakes and Fillings. Next after the ices in her book, Margaret found the cake to eat with them. And first of all there was a rule for some little cakes which the smallest girl in the neighborhood used to make all alone. Eleanor's Cakes. 1/4 cup of butter, 1/2 cup of sugar, 1/4 cup of milk, 1 egg, 1 cup flour, 1 teaspoonful baking powder, 1/2 teaspoonful of vanilla. Rub the butter and sugar to a cream, beat the egg light without separating, and put it in next. Then the milk a little at a time, mix the baking powder with the flour and stir in, and last the vanilla. Bake in small scallop tins, and fill each one only half full. Grandmother's Little Feather Cake. 1 cup of sugar, 2 tablespoonfuls soft butter, 1 egg, 1/2 cup milk and water mixed, 1 1/2 cups sifted flour, 1 teaspoonful baking powder. Rub the butter and sugar to a cream. Beat the yolk of the egg stiff and put that in. Then add part of the milk and water, and part of the flour and baking powder which has been sifted together. Next the vanilla, and last the stiff whites of the eggs, not stirred in, but just lightly folded in. If you put them in heavily and roughly, cake will always be heavy. Bake this in a buttered biscuit tin, and cut in squares when cold. It is nice covered with caramel or chocolate frosting. Domino Cake. Make this feather cake and pour it into 2 pans so that the bottom shall be just covered, and bake it quickly. When it is done, take it out of the pans and frost it, and while the frosting is still a little soft, mark it off into dominoes. When it is entirely cold, cut these out, and with a clean paintbrush paint little round spots on them with a little melted chocolate, to exactly represent the real dominoes. It is fun to play a game with these at a tea party, and eat them up afterwards. Margaret's Own Cake. Margaret's mother named this cake for her, because she liked it so much to make it and to eat it. It is a very nice cake for little girls. 5 eggs, 1 cup granulated sugar, 1 cup of flour, 1 pinch of salt, 1/2 teaspoonful of lemon juice or vanilla. Separate the eggs and beat the yolks very light and foamy. Then put in the sugar, which you have sifted, a little at a time, and the flour in the same way, but put them in turn, first sugar, then flour, and so on. Then put in the flavoring, and last fold in the whites of the eggs beaten very stiff. Bake in a buttered pan. Sponge Cake. 4 eggs, 1 cup powdered sugar, 1 cup sifted flour, 1 level teaspoonful baking powder, juice of 1/2 a lemon. Separate the yolks and whites of the eggs and beat them both very light. Mix the sugar in the yolks and beat again till they are very foamy. Then put in the stiff whites, and last the flour, sifted with baking powder, then the lemon juice. Bake in a buttered biscuit tin. You can frost and put walnut halves on top. Velvet Cake. This is a large cake, baked in a roasting pan. It is very light and delicious, and none too large for 2 luncheons, or for a picnic. 6 eggs, 2 cups of sugar, 1 cup of boiling water, 2 1/2 cups of flour, 3 teaspoonfuls of baking powder. Put the yolks of the eggs in a deep bowl and beat 2 minutes. Then put in the sugar and beat 10 minutes, or 15 if you want it perfect. Put in the water a little at a time, and next the stiffly beaten whites of the eggs. Mix the baking powder and flour. Put these in next and add the flavoring last. This is a queer way to mix the cake, but it is right. Easy Fruit Cake. Margaret's other aunt begged to have this in the book because she said it was so simple any little girl could make it, and all the family could help eat it, as they were especially fond of fruit cake. 1 cup butter, 1 cup sugar, 1 cup molasses, 1 cup milk, 1 cup currants, 1 cup raisins, 1 egg, 1 teaspoonful soda, 2 teaspoonfuls mixed spices, 3 cups flour. Wash and dry the currants. Buy the seeded raisins and wash these too, and then chop them. Cream the butter and sugar, add the egg beaten well without separating, then the molasses with the soda stirred in it, then the milk, then the cinnamon and cloves. Measure the flour and then take out a half cup of it and stir in the raisins and currants to keep them from going to the bottom of the cake when it is baked. Stir these in, add the rest of the flour and beat well. Bake in 2 buttered bread pans. Layer cake: 1 cup sugar, ½ cup water, 2 eggs, 2 teaspoonfuls baking powder, ½ cup butter, 2½ cups flour, teaspoonful vanilla. Rub the butter to a cream in a deep bowl and put in the sugar a little at a time and rub this till it, too, creams. Then put in the beaten yolks of the eggs and then the water. Beat the egg whites well and fold in half, then add the flour, in which you have mixed and sifted the baking powder, and then put in the vanilla and the rest of the eggs. Divide in 2 layers or in 3 if the tins are small, and bake till a light brown. Filling for layer cakes: nut and raisin filling. Make the rule for plain icing and add a ½ cup of chopped raisins mixed with a ½ cup of chopped almonds or English walnuts. Fig filling: mix a cup of chopped figs with the same icing. Marshmallow filling: chop 1/4 pound of marshmallows, put them over the tea kettle to get soft, make a plain icing, and beat them in. Maple filling: 2 cups maple syrup, whites of 2 eggs. Boil the syrup slowly till it makes a thread when you hold it up, then add it slowly to your beaten egg whites, beating till cold. Orange filling: 1 cup powdered sugar, 1 tablespoon boiling water, grated rind of 1 orange, 1 tablespoonful orange juice. Put the sugar in a bowl, add the rind, then the water and juice, and spread at once on the cake. This icing must be very thick when made, and if it seems thin, put in more sugar. Caramel filling: 2 cups brown sugar, ½ cup cream or milk, butter the size of an egg, ½ teaspoonful vanilla. Mix all together and cook till it is smooth and thick. Plain icing: put the white of 1 egg into a bowl with a ½ teaspoonful of water and beat till light. Then stir in a cup of sifted powdered sugar and put on the cake while that is still warm and smooth it over with a wet knife. Chocolate icing: melt 1 square of baker's chocolate in a saucer over the tea kettle and put in 2 tablespoonfuls of milk and stir till smooth. Add 2 tablespoonfuls of sugar and a small ½ teaspoonful of butter and stir again. Take it off the stove and put it on the cake while both are warm. Caramel icing: ½ cup of milk, 2 cups brown sugar, butter the size of an egg, 1 teaspoonful of vanilla. Mix the butter, sugar, and milk, and cook till it is smooth and thick, stirring all the time and watching it carefully to see that it does not burn. Take it off and put in the vanilla, and spread while warm on a warm cake. End of Part 3, Cakes and Fillings.